Support WrestleTalk!
Give us a subscribe. WWE Raw and SmackDown clearly were unsatisfied with their Christmas haul because just 1 week into January and they've decided to raid NXT's stocking and see what they've got instead. So hot on the heels of the news that baritone babyface Damian Priest was set for an imminent call up to the main roster, so imminent that it was supposed to have happened on Friday on SmackDown, were it not for Roman Reigns and Kevin Owens being like, but why? Comes this news that the main roster are also eyeing up Rhea Ripley for a full-time gig. If you watched New Year's Evil on Wednesday, which you should go and do because it was a bloody great show, both Damian and Rhea featured in marquee matches in losing efforts that felt a little bit like a final hurrah for both stars. It was a bit more final for Rhea, who was murdered through the stage off a powerbomb by Raquel Gonzalez after their last woman standing match, whereas Priest was just sort of lightly killed by Karrion Kross in the heavy-hitting opener. Now, I'm very much of the opinion that WWE should play with the toys that it's got before it goes and gets more. Cough, Bianca Belair, cough, 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 especially from my precious NXT. But Ripley is a great choice for a role on the main roster. Having already been the NXT UK Women's Champion and NXT Women's Champion, most of her 2020 was wrapped up either in blood feuds with Gonzalez and Mercedes Martinez or putting Robert Stone in the bin. What I'm saying is, she's done it all. Too much, if anything. She's done too many things now. With the Rumble looming, it's likely all hands on deck for the women of WWE. Gotta make up 30 of them somehow, and a Ripley call-up could be a shot in the arm for a women's division that really struggles to juggle the tag titles and championships at the same time, probably because it's hard to put all of those belts on Charlotte at once. But I wouldn't mind if Rhea arrives to the Rumble to rekindle the feud with Flair and hopefully get some payback and another WrestleMania-worthy match in the books. We touched on it a little bit there, but it is the Royal Rumble at the end of the month, and there was talk going around that WWE were keen to try and have fans present at Tropicana Field in Florida for the show. On the flip side to this news is the fact that January looks set to be the worst month of the pandemic so far in the United States in terms of hospitalizations and deaths. Kind of a similar issue that we're having over here after people mingling during the holiday period. So the idea of a live show with a crowd felt very opposite to the mood of the country and the advice of health professionals. Thankfully, John Albert of Spectrum Sports 360, a Florida-based sports network, is reporting that multiple sources indicated there are currently no plans for WWE to have fans at the Royal Rumble. Now obviously it's going to be very weird to watch the Rumble with no one in attendance, as the event is basically 30 pops presented back to back. But WWE's Thunderdome is a closed set, so unlike the Super Bowl or AEW Dynamite, which take place in open air spaces, it's not quite as responsible to do it in the Thunderdome. And to be honest, I don't really think AEW or the Super Bowl should be having crowds at this time either. It does mean, however, that we could see some pre-taped segments of the show, which could either make for interesting eliminations/entries, or the whole thing could just end with Randy Orton burning another bundle of rags that were for the charity shop. It was the splash heard around the world, but probably not even felt in the ring, because Snoop Dogg's spaghetti-legged attempt at a top rope dive on AEW Dynamite has been all over wrestling social media. Now, Snoop was there to promote his new TNT show, The Go Big Show, that also stars AEW Executive Vice President Cody Rhodes. But Snoop is also buddy-buddy with WWE, isn't he? And was even inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame back in 2016. So it kind of makes you wonder what WWE thought about him appearing for their greatest rival. Well, according to Fightful, it's all Gatto and the Chateau, baby, because WWE expected Snoop would appear to promote the new show, and as he's not under any form of contract with them, they see no reason to have any heat with the very famous person who adds star power and value to their programming when he appears. I wonder why. And also, I think they had bigger issues with a different WWE Hall of Famer to worry about that particular evening. Also, on that particular evening, we saw the reformation of the Bullet Club as the super elite kind of thing, as Doc Gallows and Carl Anderson reunited with Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks, throwing up the hand sign to close the show. During the closing section, Matt Jackson chucked out a super kick signifying their siding with Omega, but was not joined by brother Nick. Now, on Wrestling Observer Radio, Brian Alvarez said that earlier in the night, Nick was convinced that he had broken his leg, saying, "The story I heard is that Jack went for the 630 or whatever, and Nick got his knees up, and whatever happened, happened. But Jack landed so hard on his legs that Nick thought he broke one of his legs." If you watch the rest of the match, Nick is doing the rest of the match thinking his leg might be broken. They came out at the end of the show, they did the whole angle, he's trying not to limp and didn't throw the super kick because his leg hurt. Hopefully, he's all right. Yeah, hopefully he is. It turns out that Nick suffered a leg contusion but isn't expected to miss any time, as the Bucks are scheduled for a tag match next week, teaming with Kenny Omega. Omega. Why did I say that weird? The Human Torch was denied a bank loan, which hopefully should turn around the viewing figures from this week unless yet another near unprecedented historical event happens. I'm so tired of living through historical events. Because despite both AEW and NXT going big for their first shows of 2021 with New Year's Smash and New Year's Evil, both shows struggled in the ratings, losing many viewers to news coverage of the events at the US Capitol. Dynamite drew 662,000 viewers while NXT managed 641,000. Now last week for the Brody Lee tribute show, AEW had 977,000 people tune in, while NXT got 586,000. On this week's special Legends Night episode of Raw, we saw such legends as Hulk Hogan, Ric Flair, The Big Show, and loads more, all involved in relatively pointless cameos. Now, one name missing from that list was Stone Cold Steve Austin, who instead has been hosting more Broken Skull sessions with the likes of Bayley and Drew McIntyre. And with the miraculous returns to the ring of Daniel Bryan and Edge in recent years, there were those hoping that Stone Cold could potentially be another wrestler to add to the list who could come back from retirement. However, despite in years gone by Stone Cold claiming that he could work a match if needed, in a recent interview with Ryan Satin of WWE on Fox, the Rattlesnake confirmed that he is done with in-ring work. I don't want to do nothing else in the ring. I'm done. I've retired. Instead, Stone Cold has been living vicariously through his favourite wrestlers. During that same interview with Ryan Satin, the Hall of Famer named both of his recent Broken Skull sessions guests as his favourite current workers. That's Bayley and Drew McIntyre. Interestingly though, Stone Cold has changed his perception of McIntyre completely in recent years, explaining, "I remember talking about Drew to Mick Foley on my podcast a few years ago. At the time, if you told me Drew was going to be the guy, I would have said, nah, he's a mid-card guy. But Foley told me, you should watch this guy, and I've been watching him. To meet him in person and get a feel for his physicality and mentality and way he thinks about the business, I'm very impressed with Drew. He's really earned the position he's at in the business today." And regarding Bayley, Austin has been impressed with her in 2020, saying, "When Bayley turned heel, I think she became one of the most entertaining heels in the business. There's layers to her work." From a female standpoint, Charlotte Flair came back recently and Becky Lynch left because she was having a baby. But right now I really like Bayley's heel work. I've been liking it for quite some time. What a hipster. Now, someone who shifted their focus from wrestling in 2020 is Zelina Vega, who was released last year for wanting to continue with her Twitch channel despite WWE claiming control of all independent contractors' third-party platforms, like the evil mega corporation that they are. It was previously reported that Zelina was refused a meeting with Vince McMahon prior to her release, and now Fightful Select has added to that report, including reactions from various WWE sources on the news. Most everyone that we heard from were not surprised by the fact this happened, and we got stories from virtually everyone we asked about planning meetings being delayed and having to wait by his office for an hour at a time to get face-to-face time with him. One wrestler noted that it didn't instill a lot of confidence in them that Zelina had an actual concern over a hot button issue and wasn't heard out and was promptly fired. A Raw wrestler mentioned that the shift over the last 9 months had been evident, with WWE not letting disgruntled wrestlers go, to releasing talent with upside, to firing people with grievances. Scary stuff. Gallows and Anderson debuted in AEW to form the Super Elite. Click the video to the right to watch Ollie's review of the show, and press the video below to check out Adam Blompier's top 10 matches of 2020. Subscribe here for daily news videos and reviews. I've been El Fagador Laurie Blake. Jam that jam. That was Lucha Jam. Jam, Lucha Jam, jam, jam.